Welcome to Spoiler Free, where the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, or the choices of one. Choices of One is the latest Star Wars novel by Timothy Zahn, detailing the continuation of the events that took place in Allegiance, to the point that they will very likely be considered a duology in timelines to come. All of our protagonists, Rebel, Imperial, or otherwise, from Allegiance make a return in this novel, along with several other classic Zahn anti-heroes. But is it any good? Why is it that I can't seem to enjoy most Star Wars new releases now? I found Conviction to be a complete waste of time, Red Harvest a concept fail, The Old Republic Deception too short to really live up, and Allies, well, you know how that went. Yet other times, such as with Allegiance or Backlash, I can give myself completely into the story as though glaring flaws are not there at all. That, or I give way too much credit to other people's opinions of books that I enjoyed. I loved Allegiance, so I suppose those of you without the foresight granted by Chiss logic or the dark side of the Force might be asking where Choices of One falls on this sliding scale of love and contempt. For those who haven't read it, Timothy Zahn's Allegiance was about Mara Jade, who uses her authority as the Emperor's hand as well as her skills, which are just barely believable enough to be badass, to infiltrate a pirate base, which leads to events that allow our favorite rebel leaders to escape from under Darth Vader's nose, as well as ensuring the failed careers of several notable figures from Star Wars history. Throughout the novel, she tries on different spy outfits, giving readers a chance to picture her in everything other than a French maid outfit.
There was more to Allegiance than Mara, though, Eurus. Duh.
Insolent worm! Therein lies the problem, though. There's another group of main characters in Allegiance and Choices of One, the renegade stormtroopers who call themselves the Hand of Justice and fancy themselves superheroes. The problem with these characters is that they are entirely interchangeable. They lack a physical description, and even they can't remember the others' first names. In the first novel, at least they bicker illogically. In Choices of One, no. At least the Ninja Turtles wore masks and used different weapons to complement their different skill sets. Here, we barely get the latter. And these characters feature heavily in Tomorrow's plot, weighing it down and keeping the two storylines as one. Keeping a Mara Jade plotline with characters who know and are somewhat friends with Han Solo, Chewbacca, and Luke Skywalker is about as problematic as you imagine. It involves a lot of assumptions, like whether or not Skywalker is a common name, and close calls that are getting less and less well written the more often Mara and Luke almost meet. Oh, and there's another story. One that's completely unrelated other than having to do with climaxes that don't come together nearly as well as the traditional EU format. Speaking of traditional EU, I should mention that my fellow Chiss, Mithral Nuruodo, borrows from a tactic used in the Thrawn trilogy. This really makes me wonder if Timothy Zahn's creativity in the Star Wars department is running out. It doesn't help that the least interesting subplot of this novel exists only to please fans of the most interesting subplot of Zahn's worst received Star Wars novel. It takes a special kind of talent to make people nostalgic for Outbound Flight. Perhaps if he's having creativity issues, which would make sense given the MacGuffins asking people to find other MacGuffins for them, he can maintain the continuity of his own novels, right? Well, continuity with the rank scale is played nearly as poorly here as if it were in a 20-year-old Kevin J. Anderson novel. Gilad Palayon captained an Acclamator-class starship, the predecessors to the Imperator Star Destroyer, before Luke Skywalker and Mara Jade were born. Voss Park had a captaincy at about the same time, and a Grand Admiral is several degrees higher than even the most senior captain. These are all facts that Choices of One chooses to conveniently ignore, although the latter can arguably be justified in canon. Speaking of ranks, suddenly Mara Jade is a brilliant lightsaber practitioner that has Luke in awe at her mastery as she performs force feats with no fear of failure or difficulty. You know, the Mara Jade who is only a very rudimentary force user and heir to the Empire and the other books leading up to Vision of the Future. As far as Choices of One is concerned, she's a Jedi Master, in addition to transforming from a rogue to a DPSer. I don't simply mean Zahn's favorite characters being overpowered, though they are. What I mainly mean is that almost nobody else has two brain cells to rub together. This is fairly indicative of Star Wars novels in general. Other than the chosen few, everybody else is an idiot. Considering the mental facilities of characters such as Mara Jade, Gilad Pellaeon, and Thrawn, however, this is just all the more glaring and deficient. Two positives in this regard, however: a big bad that Thrawn can't just hand-wave away, and Thrawn's master tactics actually involve something fairly conventional, rather than the above hand-waving. I say this as a positive for a believable novel, but one of the things that most allowed me to put up with what Outbound Flight called a plot was some of Thrawn's sheer badassery. Where do this novel's strengths lie? Well, it establishes a nemesis for Thrawn, a tactical and strategic expert who may be Thrawn's equal on a fair battlefield. The alien warlord Nuso Espa plays the role of chess master for most of the novel, consistently several steps ahead of most players. Thankfully, the Rebel Alliance has a group of glorious bastards ready to deploy in the case of just such an emergency. The Justice of Lord Eurus declares that Choices of One is an enjoyable novel, but there's just not as much passion and dark power in it as its predecessor, Allegiance. Or, in the case of Mara Jade, there's too much heart and not enough Sith discipline. I command anybody that read Allegiance and either wanted more of the same or demanded resolution to read Choices of One. It also fits neatly with Hand of Thrawn, but in a manner that one who enjoys one will enjoy the references to the other. Not enough to recommend based on links between duologies alone. This novel stands, or falls down, based on your interest in continuing or duplicating the story of Allegiance. This is Lord Eurus, reminding you that disappointment is not a path to mastery of the dark side, except in rare cases.
It is purpose that created us, purpose that connects us, purpose that pulls us, that guides us, that drives us. It is purpose that defines, purpose that binds us.
We are here because of you, Mr. Anderson. We're here to take from you what you tried to take from us.